Okay, so I will start simply by doing a brief overview of the project. So this is the National Agricultural Producers Data Cooperative, and I want to emphasize the word producers in there. There's a lot of activity around ag data these days, and this project is focused in particular on setting up a national framework that's neutral, open, not in the sense of public, but open as in accessible to those who would like to use it. And there's the team. So if you see those people walking around, their name tag says NAPDC team on the bottom. So feel free to go up and accost any one of us and ask your questions about the project. So why are we doing this? So I'm a little bit preaching to the choir here, but the idea is to go from big data, overwhelming amounts of data in many cases, to actually useful data. And it's because, the ag community at large uses big data to help farmers and producers to make decisions, right? And that's the key, is they want data on which they can base good decisions. In fact, they just want the good decisions. We can manage the data side. One of the challenges is that the kind of modeling that we want to do, when we talk about artificial intelligence, we talk about coming up with new prescriptive models, a lot of those require very large, comprehensive data sets in order to get quality predictions from them. And that goes back to yesterday, there was a comment about data puddles versus data lakes, and a lot of the techniques that we're using these days require large amounts. So we need more like lakes and oceans of data instead of little pieces. And so that requires, and I think we would all benefit from getting all the data together so that we can use it. And so the question from the USDA was, how can we maximize the impact of the data that we have? And that's not just for producers, increasing yields, increasing productivity, but also enabling scientific discovery for agriculture in general. So here's the type of problems that we're facing, and I thank Joe Luck, where's Joe? He's here somewhere, for this slide. Some challenges. So Ben Craker yesterday talked about the diversity and complexity of farm data, and this is just a simple example from our extension educators on you want to automate decision support for nitrogen application through center pivots, right? So what do you need to do? You can see you have a lot of technology, you have automated collection, but then you've got IoT and you've got wireless connectivity issues. You've got to get the data to where you can process it, or you process on the edge, which has its own complications, right? You can process on site. Then you want to do your modeling, right? So you've got to bring computing to the data or vice versa, and hopefully inform applications to make the whole process more efficient, right? That's the idea. But you can see there's lots of different pieces. And there's also, private software, right? So corporate software that's involved. So you've got companies involved because you've got robotics and you've got software that you need to use. But you've also got academics who are doing extension, and you've got the farmers, right, who are enabling this kind of research. So this was our initial job, initial aim was to build a blueprint. Right? What would such a framework look like? And this is part of why you're all here, right? Because we need your input, because we want to construct something that is useful and sustainable. Right? And that means the more people at the table who give us their ideas of what they need, the better. So identify needs and opportunities, identify the challenges, engage everybody to participate, and that includes research institutions, producers, cooperatives, nonprofits, the private sector, and then communicate and disseminate all of our activities. So that's why we set up our webpage. We have a listserv so that we can communicate with everyone what's happening and what we're doing, and also enable people to communicate with us. So what are the pieces of the framework? Well, there's many of them. There's many aspects of this. And this is just a brief list, but you can see how The idea is also getting science to producers to enable them to do better, and also get feedback from producers to make sure that the framework is what they want and is bringing them value. Right? As we heard yesterday, the agricultural community is busy. Farmers are busy. They have a lot of things they need to handle. We can help them on the data side, right? And hopefully give them something that's useful. So here are some of the areas of a framework, and what we did was we split them out into horizontal pieces and vertical pieces. So the horizontal pieces are the ones that are relevant across your agroecosystem, across your area of work. It doesn't really matter what your crop species is or what your animal species is. Those are relevant for all areas. And then the vertical side, those ones are going to vary depending on the application, right? So on the horizontal side, you'll see the first one is data governance. That applies across no matter what your application area is. That's a really important topic. On the right-hand side, you see the first one is representative query sets, so representative data sets that people will want to use. Well, the data that's relevant to you or your neighbor is going to vary depending on your area of application. So horizontal and vertical, and you'll notice that a lot of these areas are topics for the breakout groups this afternoon. So there's a reason that this list is up here besides just overwhelming you with words, is that these are the areas where we're soliciting your input. So what we did originally was we took the US and we took the census areas, and we're trying to engage with people in every area across the US, because these areas vary by the type of agricultural production, the type of ag product systems, the areas and their stakeholders vary across the regions. So this is kind of where we started, and so we're trying to get good national participation, understanding that we're not alone, right? Yes, okay, we're separated by large ponds, but everyone else is working in the same space, right? So I got the picture up on the top from the Agri-Canada website, so thank you, Canadians. And then we've got the Europeans, and we've got the Mexican, we've got Africa, we've got Asia. Everyone's talking about this space and how we can make ag productivity and improve it, make it more efficient, more sustainable, right? So yes, we're starting on the national basis, but this is part of a more of a global initiative. So then we moved, we're doing the data collection and the input from you at the same time. We're also working on some initial pilot studies. So I'm not going to go into the pilot studies right now because you're going to hear about them this morning. But we decided that as part of our information gathering, what we should do in parallel is also enable a few groups to start working in the space and start developing some of the things that we're going to need for the framework and give us their feedback, right? So that's really the topic of this piece was, yes, gather information, yes, start putting together a blueprint, but also at the same time start doing some pilot work. And so we have a couple of projects. Each one of these groups will give a brief presentation this morning so you can get an idea of some of the activities that are going on within the cooperative. Okay, so I'll skip this because you're going to hear about this morning. So that's it as an intro. If you want to reach out afterwards, there's our webpage, there's the email address if you want to contact us. We are recording the presentations this morning, so we will have slides and videos that we're going to post on the webpage. So if there's anything that you heard or somebody speaking, you thought, I need to go talk to that person, but you didn't get a chance to while you were here, there will be all this information on the webpage. Okay, so brief overview. Okay, I'm going to pass it now to our USDA program officer, Ann Stapleton. She's going to present via Zoom, and she's going to talk about the USDA program for an open data framework. So,
I'm glad to see everyone here for the Open Data Framework meeting. And I wanted to just provide a quick general overview of NIFA. And then if you have any questions about these slides, there's also, we can make these available to the folks that are here today. There's some additional details that I won't cover. So let's start off with talking about us. This is spring 2023. What's the state of NIFA? Next slide, please. We have 390, a goal for 390 folks. So we are staffed now at 350. We are primarily remote. We do have headquarters staff and operations staff in 2 locations. And you'll see over the next year, our advertisements for increasing our workforce to our maximum. So please encourage your best folks to apply. Next slide. So just a really brief overview of what NIFA is about. In 2022, in fiscal year 2022, we awarded more than 2,500 grants for more than 70 programs with a total funding amount of over $2 billion. Next slide. And I just wanted to give everybody a sort of update because there has been a lot of change in the recent legislation that leads to competitions that are managed by NIFA. So from the American Rescue Plan Act, there have been 4 competitions that NIFA led: meat and poultry processing, technical assistance to underserved producers, ag career development or next gen, and then a coordinated GUSNIP community food projects program. From the bipartisan infrastructure law, we have the bioproduct pilot program. It's just part of the bioeconomy effort. And from the Appropriations Act, we have Institutes for Rural Partnerships, which I actually think is really relevant to this group. If you haven't heard about this, you might take a look. Next slide, please. We also have our new and current requests for applications. And I just wanted to highlight some of the new programs in these. So from AFRI, Foundational and Applied Science, there's an environmental justice and a behavioral economics sections that are new. From AFRI, Sustainable Agricultural Systems, or SAS, there's a priority on enteric methane, which is new. And the laying hen and turkey research is also new. So that's a congressionally funded program. Next slide. So let's just sort of step back and think about what NIFA does. So what we do is implement the administration's priorities. And as of this week, the new USDA Science and Research Strategy is public. I encourage you to take a look at that because that connects the broader USDA goals with the science and research that's of interest to this group and that really directs NIFA's own strategic priorities. We support our partners and stakeholders in addressing the critical needs and drive federal efforts to advance agriculturally related sciences. This includes our many partnerships with other science agencies, such as the National Science Foundation. So here, the strategy is that we are leading innovation in research, teaching, and extension, and partnering with our stakeholders to deliver a really comprehensive programs with leadership and goals that are in our strategic plan. Next slide. So how do we do this? How do we address the needs of our partners and stakeholders? We fund collaborative projects. We have input through listening sessions, and more long-term for our future, we are enhancing our portfolio of 4-H programs and positive youth development programs. And we focus on high-quality customer service. The upcoming major emphasis there is on, we have now begun the process, which will take multiple years, to entirely redo our grants management system from RFA through award. and through follow-up to awards. So expect to see some improvements in our service over time from this major effort at NIFA. Next slide, please. So here is sort of where we are going. We want to have a fully staffed, diverse NIFA workforce, improve NIFA processes, specifically a full update to a modern grants management system, re-engineer the RFAs so that they are easier for people to understand and to apply, and improve the NIFA reporting system so that when you report your results back to NIFA, it's easier for everyone to do. Next slide. Okay, and next slide. So here I'll just stop for questions. There's additional information available in these slides, and I'm happy to have these shared with this group. So you're welcome to disseminate them to the meeting participants today. And if anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer those now.
Hi, Anne. This is Carolyn Lawrence Dill. How are you?
Great to see you.
You too. Is there any way that you could send your slide deck to us that we could get it? There was a lot of really good content, and having you describe them at the same time was really useful. I think that just having them will help us, at least myself, speaking for myself, when I go back to Iowa State, it'll be really helpful to be able to get some engagement with the programs you described.
Yes, we're approved. I'm approved to let anyone in this meeting have a copy of the slides, and I'll rely on the staff here to make sure that everybody gets access. There's also comments that I think are particularly useful. In essence, the explanation, the verbal explanation that I gave is included in the comment section in the slides, and you're free to take a look at those. So hopefully we can organize that sometime today.
Another question, Anne, hold on one second.
Hello, Anne. This is Gert Hogenboom, University of Florida. Can you elaborate a little bit on NIFA's current data policy? You just mentioned that you funded 2,500 projects this year. All those projects generate a lot of data, and it would be very nice if those data would be available at the end of a research project to the overall research community. And especially, can you talk a little bit about the FAIR principle and how that's going to be implemented in NIFA?
Yes, so you'll see in many of our AFRI programs, we already list the FAIR principles in our program priorities, and those are assessed by the reviewers. You actually have at your meeting today the USDA expert in public access to data, and that's Dr. Cynthia Parr. So I encourage you to reach out to Cynthia and talk to her about any of those details. It's very early stages in implementing the executive order on public access. So this is public access to both publications and data. So Cindy can give you the most up-to-date information about our implementation process. This will be a continuing major effort for USDA to make the processes available and to ensure the quality of publicly available data from our funding, our contracts, our cooperative agreements, and our grants.
And I have one question, which is, could you say something about the rural institutes that you'd mentioned? Because I noticed that you commented that that would be important for this project. So I just thought, could you say a little bit more about those institutes?
Yes, so Rural Partners there's Rural Partners Network and Rural Partner Institutes. This is a way of reaching out to more people, to more producers, more people in rural areas, more people in the food system, more people interested in rural infrastructure. So one of the roles of these partner institutes is to more strongly connect federal programs with people who live and work in rural areas. So it's a very broad goal, and there's lots of specific ways this can be done, but this is really relevant to developing a blueprint and examples for use of agricultural data. So this is a network that I encourage everyone to tap into to consider how you might best connect with all of the many diverse experts here. They're not currently in all parts of the US, but there's a geographical spread of these partner institutes and the Rural Partners Network. And I think this is one way that you might connect one network to your network. So I encourage you to explore that in more detail.
Okay, Anne, thank you very much. That was incredibly helpful, and I appreciate your time.
It's really lovely to see everyone. Enjoy your day.